All right. Thursday, 26 September 2024. The excitement is here because it's the day where I end off the week. So it's rest time. It is rest time and it's well deserved. Today I had 18 conversations. Looks like 18 is, running consistently. 18, 16, and 22. Those have been the three numbers so far. Today I started off with Aoife in Ireland. Very cool conversation, followed by BJ Davis, then Whitney Corbin, the socio, Jeffrey the socio in Boston, who we got to meet, who is the biggest networking person I've ever seen. He's in Boston. And folks, the conversation, all right, not folks, this is my log, right? So, Angel. So, the conversation has been really intriguing. I guess it's folks for those that are listening. All right, folks. The conversations. When I started podcasting, I did a templated question, right? So it was a standardized question, and I asked the same questions of on like thousands of people. The first the first run was 1,001 in 2016, and then in 2017 I did it again, right? The same questions, focusing mostly on podcasters. And I had 800 and something conversations then. Then in just right before COVID, I brought people back on and did what I call the flowversation, where where I'm recapping on the previous conversation and simply going with the flow. It was great. It was fun, right? It was a ton of fun. And and then COVID hit. And I'm talking about it and I remember Jean, a friend of ours that has since passed, that we met in Vancouver. We stayed at her home for a couple days. And yeah, Jean came on and she loved it. She because we met in 2018 and then I brought her back on and she loved the conversation. And that was fun, but then COVID happened and we took the podcast down. And I had one conversation in 2021, and then I haven't podcasted for 3 years, right? To this day of starting. Now, I convinced myself that what even though I wasn't podcasting, what I was doing is interviewing people and sharing their stories. So we started helping people publish, right? And because of my interview skills, like, which I'm super thankful for, because I've had so many conversations, I was able to develop stories through conversations, and it's been working, and people, they love it, right? Fast forward to today, I'm having podcast conversations, and I was in between. Do I use the same questions, the template? Do I use the template? And it was tempting at the beginning, but I could never get to the end because my curiosity for things that I'm hearing now. And I would like to know what the earliest childhood memory is, which is one of the questions I would ask of many of the individuals I speak with. But uh, in a conversation, there are things that you're hearing, right, in your mind, answers that you want to questions that pop into your mind. So I've been doing that, and it's been interesting. I've also been holding what I believe is a space for someone without being judgmental. And in so doing, I've realized that there's something here, there's something in helping people understand the art of a conversation. So, what I have done with 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 the consent of the individuals I'm about to call their names here is ask them to come in and express on the conversations we're recording what they think, what they would have liked to be answered. So Amanda, my wife, is now the chief editor of the podcast. Even though she's not doing the technical things, she's coming in as the chief editor, which is going to be interesting. She has been the chief camera person on the 12 Min RV convoys where we went across the 48 states and Canada. Amanda held that camera, like she set up. And initially, Ryan was there, right? Ryan Dean. But when he needed to leave, it was Amanda and I. And I remember the wrap up the mic system and set up the GoPro. Like we set the GoPro up and the phone up so we'd have a backup. And Amanda was that person. And she doesn't have a certificate in photography or videography, right? But she shows up. And we were having a conversation, and we thought it would be fun to have my first son, Jahaziel, come on board. And he's technical, like he's technologically sound, like he likes technology, and he's homeschooling. And we thought it would be cool to do that. No, it's not child labor for those that are thinking it may be child labor. It's not child labor. He's all into it. In fact, it's going to be intriguing to see how he learns and develops over these conversations that he's now going to be listening to. So that's interesting. So going it's we're about now. We told people that we would share episodes 12 days from the time of recording the conversations. We're a bit off schedule because we do have other responsibilities, but it's coming. And when it begins to come, they're going to grow and they're going to get better and better, and it's going to improve because I've seen the way Amanda works. I've seen how Jahaziel works as well. Very, very impressive individual. How he his mind and his decisions and how he develops. It's very, very interesting. All of my children, I'm simply speaking about him based on what he's doing right now. So, yeah. And again, the thing that triggered me to say this is the types of conversations I've been having where, you know, today I had a conversation and I could not hit the record button because it was based on a scenario that was personal and it worked out so well. You know, one person canceled, so she came in a time and then we spoke for 30 minutes. I had to go because I had someone else, but it everything is not about getting the numbers here at this point. It is a focus, but my focus really is to share unique narratives. So we call it Sun and Fun and foster unlimited networks. And when I talk about unlimited networks, like I want my children to benefit from the conversations I'm having. And I want their children to benefit from the conversations I'm having and have had from the networks. And of course, Sun and Fun, you know, hopefully you get to come to the Caribbean and experience what has cultivated my culture and who I am because I believe it is powerful. So, anyways, the interviews carried on. I had Selena Templeton, then Sabrina Bensalmi, who is the mother of some children who exceptionally brilliant. Uh, it's again homeschooling her children. Such of a beautiful model she's put out. Her children, I've tested them, like I've interviewed them, and I'm like, all right. Like I remember earlier on, I asked Trey Sean her the numbers, like he's a math guy. And I remember asking him 6 plus 17. And he said 24. And I was like, he likes math, yeah? But it was like he immediately said, no, 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 23. Everyone's songed in her space. And then I had Stephen Hobbs. Stephen talks about being a solo ager. I found that to be really intriguing, and like he's growing old, and he doesn't have a spouse. He doesn't have children, and he talks about the things you need to do to basically prepare yourself for that. So that was intriguing. Then I had Bryce Conlan. They help dance studios make money. It's basically it, yeah. But they're very good at it through marketing and putting systems in place. Then Dion, we met in New York, and she reminds me of one of my cousins, Anisha. So yeah, Dion is amazing. She got to read. She read part of her journal for me. And then Randy Pizer. Wow, Randy. Oh, Randy helps people publish books like New York bestseller type books, right? She gets them out there and she does the work, gets them published or connected with publishers. Randy's conversation was great. Again, the conversations have gone totally different, where she told me about a fall she had. Her dog ran after the geese and, pulled her, and she was in the hospital for some days. And, it brought her to the reality of needing to depend on people. And that was intriguing, right? Because we all need people. We really do. I don't know why LinkedIn gives this error. One second. Sorry. So anyway, then I had Trey Sean, which is the son of Sabrina, followed by D. Grant Smith. D. Grant Smith was the most unorthodox conversation. He put the camera on. When you put the camera on, you take my attention, and I focus on other things. And he had this thing in the back that caught my eyes, and I could only see the script of I am because the text was big enough, but the other text was smaller. And I asked him, what was that? And it was one of the most beautiful poems I've heard in quite a while, which one of his best friends wrote for him. And then we went on and had a very, very cool conversation. Then Michael, let me share what Michael looks like. Like you should see, let me see if I can pull the picture up, man, so you could just see Michael here. One quick second. So this is Michael, right? Michael is the oldest guy I've had on my podcast now. Michael is 82 years old, and look at Michael's happiness there, right? Like you could see it, right? Michael just landed a relationship. He's been in a relationship for the last 4 years, he told me, right? It happened during COVID. He's found someone 1 year younger than him. And it was such of a sweet conversation. Uh, so kudos to you, Michael. Love is always lovely. Then I had George Middleton, great guy. He's the guy that asked the question when we were in Indianapolis, when we had 33 interviews in one day. And the question he asks is, are you your color or are you your culture? And when I interviewed him, he asked that question at the end to close things off. And I said, I am my culture, and my culture is humanity. So we picked up the conversation right from there, and it was really intriguing. Then I was disappointed by Robert who McPhee, who told me he came to Tobago to do some work, and he did not connect with me while he was here, right? He passed through Trinidad, was here for a night, and he said, Angel, I'm so sorry. To be quite honest, it just hit me in coming on to the podcast that you were in Trinidad and I was in Tobago. But then Robert shared that he lost his daughter. He lost his daughter in between the period of us last speaking on the podcast, and how, it's like 2 days away from her birthday when, she would have celebrated her birthday. And we dove into that conversation and we held a space for each other, right? Me sharing about losing my mother in law, and him sharing about him losing his daughter. And it's what the podcast is now. Yeah. It's not, it's what it is. There's where the value is. Then I had a conversation with Mitchell, super cool guy. He talks about sea popping. Uh, he interviewed 500, uh, what does he call them? Was it CEOs? 500 thought leaders on credibility. And he published a book that's a 7 country international bestseller. Of course, he has a TEDx as well on humanity. But more than anything else, the servant leadership really stands out in what Mitchell represents. So that was intriguing, that conversation. Excited to share that. Then two more folks. So then there was Catherine, who who she's in the space of she's in Calgary, and the EBC, which is the Evolutionary Business Council. When I began, Teresa Digobra, who is the founder, basically connected me with a ton of people, right? And for example, Stephen Hobbs, he's one of the persons who I spoke to there with. Randy Pizer, like they're people who were, connected to me by her. And yeah, so it was good speaking with her. She lost her sight for a while, and she talks about how, she was a workaholic, but then she had to sit in the dark because the light, it's a scenario where the light affects her eyes, and to heal, she needed to sit without having bright lights around her. And she talks about how it brought her to the reality of how she can do things differently. And I think every one of us doesn't need to experience something like that to think about how we could lessen what we do and how we do it so that we're taking care of ourselves and burnout isn't something that happens. But hey, talking to myself here, right? It's important to balance it all. Then finally, I was way back in Australia again with Tansel Ali, who is a phenomenal mind, who his memorization skills is out of this world. Yeah, he's the guy who memorized 2 entire yellow page phone books in 24 days. Uh, Wrote 2 international bestsellers in 10 days. And again, the conversation was mind blowing. Video is a thing that's coming on now more. Like, I usually would not put the video on, but I'm curious as well because I've spoken with people who I would just have, that time it was Skype, and it would just be there. Now Zoom is here. And I think not just me, but everyone else seems to be interacting with technology differently. It's cool. I guess it's WhatsApp video or FaceTime and Zoom video. So, but it was really good to see him and have that conversation. It's a good thing. I'm working on it. The reason I do not love video is because I like to concentrate, and not having the video helps me do that. But it's a give or take, right? Because seeing the person is good as well. It's the best version of not being there in person. But we do look forward to being and meeting who we've spoken to. And I say we because it's the team, but who I've spoken to on the podcast face to face. So this is Thursday, September 26, 2024. The conversations have been absolutely amazing today. Rest is required. The throat is feeling the effects of the vibrating so long. But I just want to say thank you to my family for supporting me as I go forward on what is 1,200 conversations in 12 weeks. Yeah. And I'm thankful that God has given me life to be here to do what I do.